Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Wiley Blevins, Associate Publisher at Reycraft Books, and I would like to welcome you to our Spring 2026 list. But before I do, I want to make sure you didn't miss any of our Fall 2025 stars, starting with Grind, an Ode to Skateboarding by Carol Boston Weatherford. Carol Boston Weatherford was the most recent American Library Association Legacy Award winner. This book received a Junior Library Guild Gold Standard Selection honor. The next book in the Vampirita series by Mariana Llanos, Vampirita and the Musical Mayhem, and Vampirita y el Oberoto Musical is out. We published this series simultaneously in English and Spanish. We also have a biography by Debbie Michiko Florence that is flying off the shelves. It's called Monster Maker, The Strange Creatures of Mark Nagata. Mark was a little boy who loved those Japanese Godzilla movies, loved collecting those little toys, and grew up to start his own toy company to make his own little monsters. The second book in the Amaya Nunez series, The Other Side of the Wall by Adriana Quinones, is also out. It is as beautiful, if not more beautiful, than the first. The first was a Charlotte Huck Award winner. And New York Times best-selling author Nikki Grimes is out with book 6 in her Diamond Daniels series called Wild Ride. Don't miss any of these or any others that we had on our fall 2025 list, which you can check out at raycraftbooks.com. Now on to our 2026 list, and we have some exciting nonfiction to start with. The first is a nonfiction picture book about music called Music Plants Hope, written by Tonya Fletcher and illustrated by Natalia Bruno. In the spring of 2020, a pandemic shut down public places around the globe, including concert halls and theaters. Eugenio Ampudia, a Spanish artist, was inspired by nature during the quarantine and brought art, music, and nature together in a grand theater. He worked with plant nurseries and theater management at the Liceo Theater in Barcelona, Spain, to create a concert for the bioscene. Local nursery workers brought 2,292 plants to fill the theater for this special concert. This is the story of that remarkable event, and remarkable it was. This is an absolutely intriguing, fascinating nonfiction book that will inspire early readers. I want you to take a peek inside at just how gorgeous the art is. The writing is as lyrical and beautiful. Here you have the instrumentalists. And because it was sort of fantastical, the artist really took a fantastical viewpoint, and you're just immersed in the flow of the music and in the plants. And the story is true, which makes it even more remarkable. So this is a nonfiction book ripped from the headlines. It involves music and nature. It is both lyrical and memorable, and there is a Latinx illustrator. The second nonfiction book is one that really tugs at my heart in a very surprising way. The author is Trenice, and the illustrator is Paolo Domeniconi. Post Office Bay is a real place that has existed since the late 1770s in the Galapagos Islands. While not much more than a barrel, sailors passing by would drop off and pick up mail to deliver to waiting friends and family around the world. It has lasted for centuries solely due to the kindness of strangers. In this story, Oliver, the little boy in the story, learns from his grandfather about the role this unique post office played in his family's history when someone put love in a barrel long ago. The fact that this story is true, it is absolutely stunning, both in the shock value that people traveling by, sailors are picking up mail and delivering them all over the world, but also the stunning art by Paolo Domeniconi. So I want you to take a peek inside and how immersive the art is. You almost feel like you're there. Look at that perspective. Here you have that fateful letter that was delivered to a sailor's sister, which resulted in a love match. And here you see where Post Office Bay is still located today in the Galapagos Islands. So this is historical nonfiction. It's a fascinating history of communication. It's great for lessons on letter writing, emails, and geography in any classroom. It's a wonderful story about kindness and love and includes detailed back matter about the actual post office bay. I highly recommend this book. The next nonfiction book is also ripped from the headlines. It is called Where There's a Whale, There's a Way by Kimberly Wilson, illustrated by Chris Adams. In 2013, the icy Arctic winter arrived late to northern Canada, and the Hudson Bay surface froze overnight. A pod of 11 orcas, fooled by the warmer waters, were swimming near the small fishing village of Inukjuak and became trapped by the icy conditions, quickly making their struggle to survive international news. For 3 long days, the world followed along as the pod searched for a way out, and the desperate villagers exhausted every resource to help them. Will the orcas make it out alive? And that is what young readers will wonder. This story has so much drama. The art is beautiful, the story is real and quite surprising. You feel for these animals. In fact, when you're reading it and you see that there's only this little hole that they have to take turns popping out of to breathe, you have difficulties breathing yourself when you're reading this. That's how much drama is infused in this story. Just a remarkable tale. And there's back matter that has additional information about the actual event. So this is a nonfiction science book. It's a story that's ripped from the headlines. It's high drama. But ultimately, it's a story, a really tender story of kindness and the powerful connection between humans and animals. It includes that all-important back matter. Let's switch gears a little bit. This is a book that we have brought to the United States from Japan. It's called Pitch Black. It is a picture book written by Takuma Takasaki, illustrated by Ken Kuro, translated by Emily Balistrieri. Let's all try drawing what's on our minds, said the teacher. One boy proceeds to color his entire paper pitch black, blackety black, black. But he doesn't stop there. He spends all his time coating sheet after sheet after sheet after sheet in pitch black, as everyone grows worried. What is he drawing? This new picture book is based on an award-winning Japanese public service announcement. So there was this public service announcement in Japan about fostering children's creativity. And it so moved the nation that this author and illustrator teamed up to create a story around that public service announcement. And it is an absolutely stunning book. And you get a scene from the beginning where the children are drawing. They're all drawing what you would expect them to draw, except this little boy who's just covering his pages in black. He can't stop. He's obsessed with this, but he has something in his mind. He starts slowly piecing it together. And you finally realize at the end of the book what he has pieced together. And it's as if this whale has been speaking to him the whole time. Very touching. So this is from Japan. It's all about expressing oneself through art, which can inspire a lot of young readers. It focuses on the power of imagination and creativity. And also it speaks to all of those children who march to the beat of their own drummer. And it is a tremendous read aloud. Really excited to bring this book to the United States. To continue our nonfiction now, we have a really powerful historical nonfiction called Learn, Baby Learn, the Shindana Toy Factory's Legacy of Black Pride, written by Charlotte Watson Sherman, illustrated by Esther Stimvat. Out of the ashes and rubble of the Watts Rising in South Central Los Angeles in the mid-1960s arose a project called Operation Bootstrap that provided training and education for community members. Its motto, Learn, Baby Learn, sparked the development of the Shindana Toy Factory, the first Black toy company in the United States, dedicated to producing dolls and games that would build pride and spark imagination of children who rarely saw themselves in the toys available at the time. There are a lot of teachers out there, librarians out there who are a little bit older who will remember some of these toys and games. For young readers, this will really spark their imaginations. And it's just this incredible history lesson, but it's couched in the making of something that children love, toys and games. Let's take a peek inside at some of the beautiful and realistic art. There's some information about how the people arrived to Los Angeles. So you get a little bit of a history lesson here. And then it leads up to the event that resulted in Operation Bootstrap being created and all the training that was provided for the community members after this really traumatic event and all the beautiful things that arose out of it, including the creation of this toy factory. It's historical nonfiction, African American. It's all about communities coming together, toys, toys, toys. What could be more fun? And it addresses the importance of both education and hard work. Now, folk tales. I'm a huge lover of folk tales from all over the world, and this is a really special book called Little Awa, written and illustrated by Mrinale Alvarez Astacio. She's illustrated some other books for us, but this is the first that she also wrote. Awa lives in a small house in a peaceful and quiet village. Too quiet. When the village elders gather to solve the mystery of the silence, they turn to kind little Awa, who has a special way with nature to find a solution. As she embarks on her journey, she is helped by the ones in the ground and the ones in the sky. One day, she finds herself covered in feathers. She dreams she is flying over her village, delivering the one thing that has been missing, the beautiful and long forgotten songs of the birds. But this is not the end of Awa's journey in this moving tale. So what's really fascinating about this book to me is the author illustrator in college studied this particular folktale character, Awa, and this was the inspiration for this book. And her art, her palette is so unique and interesting and emotive. I want you to take a peek inside. It's truly a special book. I mean, look at that. You can feel it when you are reading. It has this mix of traditional and modern at the same time, which will make it a classic for any school or classroom library. So it's a Latinx Porqua tale studied by the author illustrator in college, as I previously said. It's all about girl power and has gorgeous illustrations and is a perfect read aloud for any school unit on tales around the world. This will be a favorite of many young readers. Speaking of stories from around the world, the next nonfiction book is actually a counting book, but it's a counting book plus because this is for older readers. It's Shunya Means Zero, a Hindi counting book written by Vijaya Bodach and illustrated by Nayantara Surendranath. Did you know the number zero was invented in India? This book invites readers to count in Hindi while taking a delightful romp through Indian culture and history. Follow along as Indian instruments, languages, dances, and endangered animals are all counted. So, like I said, it is not a traditional counting book, and you'll see right away there's information that older readers, upper elementary, will really find intriguing. And the illustrations just bring you in, have a beautiful Indian feel to them. The information will leave you wanting to know more about the fascinating country of India. So this is a nonfiction counting book for older readers. It has a ton of historical information that's relevant to children today, has an Indian author and illustrator, and it's a great read aloud, or you can dip in and explore the book based on your interest, different numbers, different topics, and so on. Love this book. Speaking of nonfiction, science books, picture book written in sand, the second book in the series by Caitlin Sykes, illustrated by Mel Seri. The first book was One Drop, really stunning. It has very simple text, so it appeals to young readers, but it has really rich back matter that appeals to older readers. So it's one of these books that really crosses the grades. Toss, Tumble, Crash. Through lyrical text, this visually stunning nonfiction book traces the creation of a sandy beach from mountaintop boulder hurling down and being picked up by a glacier, tumbling through waterways along coastlines, finally resting on an ocean floor in bits to become scoopable grains of sand. Back matter provides additional facts for older readers. Let's take a peek inside. If you're familiar with One Drop, this will feel very familiar to you. So we start present day and we just sort of go back in time to see how we arrived at the sand. And it's a fascinating story. So this is a nonfiction science book, the second book in the series. Has a creative format that appeals to both younger and older readers and includes really important back matter that gives older readers all of that information that can really elevate the use of this book in multiple grades. A similar nonfiction book is My Life as a Rock. So the first book has a rock that tumbles and all sorts of things happen to it, and it finally becomes sand. This is the story of a rock that doesn't become
Something
sand,
went wrong.
but it ends someplace else. This is written by Jeff Spears and illustrated by Carolyn Pedler. From the tip top of a tall mountain to a beachside miles away, readers go on a 400 million year journey with a rock. Crash, boom, roll, ah. What makes this book really unique and appealing to young readers is that it's told through the perspective of the rock. So the rock is talking to the reader. And magically, the illustrator has really captured your heart. You really feel for this little rock as it's tumbling and going along its journey, and you're just hoping that it ends up someplace that it will be absolutely happy and satisfied and joyous, which it does at the end. Gorgeous art. So this is a nonfiction science book, has an engaging format, the rock speaking to the reader. It's one of many natural science books for young readers from Reycraft Books. In fact, I want to show you the collection that we are amassing. If you're looking for some science books for very young readers, My Life is a Rock, Written in Sand, One Drop, Build a Sandcastle, and Swish the Wonders of Wind make an incredible addition to any school or classroom library. Let's switch gears a little bit. It's not nonfiction, but it does have an environmental focus. It's Yeti and the Rubbish on Mount Everest, written and illustrated by Andrea Tripke. On Mount Everest, the highest mountain of the Himalayas, where the sun almost touches the snow, lives Yeti. The peaceful life of this lovable creature is interrupted by the piles of rubbish left behind by the horde of climbers each year. As Yeti organizes a cleaning mission with a small group of helper Sherpas, a massive snowstorm hits. Will Yeti be able to keep his helper safe and return the mountain to its pristine glory? That is what young readers will be asking. So there's a lot of drama. So it isn't your typical preachy environmental book. It has a wonderful story that will keep readers on the edge of their seat. And here's a look inside. Yeti is a lovable, fantastical character, but you really feel Yeti's emotions throughout the book, the sadness, the fear, and ultimately the joy. And here's with the Sherpa stuck on the mountain and the joy at the end. So it's a fantasy with nonfiction content embedded. It has an environmental focus. It is great for classroom conversations about recycling and protecting the earth. So there are times a year when you're having those conversations. This is a perfect book to pull out for your younger readers, and it's a perfect Earth Day read aloud. Speaking of fantasy books, this book might be my absolute favorite on this list. I know Jane Yolen has written over 450 books, I believe now. She is one of the greats in our industry. This might be my favorite book Jane has ever done. And it's illustrated by Rasheen Carrier. Jane, of course, is a New York Times bestselling author, and Rasheen is an award-winning illustrator originally from Iran, but now lives in the United States. This is called The Ink Pot Fairy. Caroline, that's the little girl in the book, takes down the green ink pot from the high shelf. It belongs to Mama, so she's careful not to make a mess. When she pries open the lid, out pops a green inkpot fairy who demands she make art. Using green, her favorite color, the inkpot fairy guides her to make drawings of things she never knew she was capable of in this touching and fantastical tale that speaks to the power and magic of creating art. It really is magical. Let's take a peek inside at Rasheen's gorgeous art. Absolutely breathtaking. She is at the top of her game in this book, and so is Jane. Like I said, probably my favorite book Jane has ever written. I don't know. It's just one of those stories that sticks with you. So it's a fantasy, but it has this classic feel. It's by an award-winning author and illustrator. It focuses on the power of art and creativity, which we could all use that message in our lives. Children certainly need more time to create art and expand their creativity. It details a really sweet mother-daughter relationship, and it is a perfect read aloud, as all of Jane's books really are. Speaking of fantasy characters, the fourth book in our Soroya series, Soroya and the Lake Monster by Salima Ali Khan, illustrated by Atiye Sarabi, and the comic insert in the back, all these books have a comic insert in the back that young readers love, is by Jen Melchigar. So what is this one about? the mud, the bugs. Soroya is not sure she wants to be on an educational camping trip. Naomi had to drag her and Kristoff along, but adventure awaits the three friends when they meet a mysterious magical creature and learn of a terrible threat to the lake near their campsite. Soroya might even get the chance to be a nature-saving superhero, just like her comic book idol, Nimbla Mooney, who is featured in that graphic novel insert in the back. This is for older readers, grades 2 through 5. This series has been flying off the shelves. It's a very, very popular series. So if your young readers haven't had a chance to explore it, please share all four of the books with them. Here's a peek inside. There is some art scattered throughout, but it is a full-on chapter book for students in grades 2 through 5. It's the fourth book in this popular fantasy series, Mythical Creatures. You can't go wrong with Mythical Creatures. It focuses on strong friendships with which readers at this age love to read about, and it has a comic book insert. Speaking of series, this is the final book in the humorous early chapter book series by Judith Henderson. She was the person who wrote the theme song for the Emmy Award-winning PBS show Arthur, so young readers might be familiar with that. It's illustrated by Amy Jindra. This book, book 3, is called Becca the Brave and the Life of Hai. In the final book in the Becca the Brave trilogy, we learn the aftermath of the dilemma-filled Shabbat meal when Warren the Worst and Benj compete for Becca's friendship. Becca's Bubby, her grandmother, tells her that you need to make your own luck. Can Becca muster up enough luck to save her long-standing friendship with Benj and create a new one with Warren? So for those of you who are unfamiliar with this series, there are 3 books, 3 main characters, and each book is told from the perspective of one of the characters. And when you read all 3 together, you get a really complete picture of this important event in the lives of all 3 of them. It is a really special series in the way that it is constructed, and it's super, super funny. Here's a peek inside. You can see it's chapter book, but for younger readers, 2nd, 3rd grade. This is Bubby, the grandmother. She's just the most adorable Bubby. Everyone wants a Bubby like her. So it's the 3rd book in the humor series with a unique format, Jewish themed, award-winning author. It's laugh out loud funny. All 3 books are, making for a great read aloud as well. It focuses on forming and keeping friendships and the challenges involved. So this is one of those books that is real. Like they're having some issues. They resolve the issues in a way that's quite wonderful and quite believable for children at that age. This is our 2nd book in our early reader series of books that we're doing. I love early readers. I write early readers. I'm so excited we're doing more early readers. This book just blows me away. It's called Fluffle Shuffle. It's written by Julie McMahon Evans. It's illustrated by Laura Dombred, who's one of my favorite illustrators of all time. Shuffle, scuffle, snuffle. Each page in this early reader introduces a new rhyming word, just one word per spread, that relays the drama-filled story of a group of wild rabbits called a fluffle who get caught in one giant kerfluffle. So it's fascinating because there's just this one word, but there's so much emotion. You go on an emotional roller coaster ride. You feel joy, you feel sadness, you feel worry, fear, just everything that you can imagine with one word. It is a remarkable feat by this illustrator. Here you see one of the pages. The characters are absolutely adorable. This is the shuffle page. So it's an early reader. It's great for phonics and vocabulary learning because you're going to learn some words you haven't heard before that rhyme with uffle. A range of emotions, funny, sad, scared, relieved, taking readers on a satisfying emotional journey, which is quite unique for an early reader. And it focuses on kindness and friendship. We have a lot of books this list that focus on kindness and friendship, and those are wonderful messages all our children should receive. Now, the last book is probably the most special and the most unique. I am just blown away by this book. It's called Whale Boys. It's one of 2 books, novels in verse, historical novels in verse that we are publishing by J.C. Cato. It's Whale Boys, The True Adventures of Melville and Manjiro. Now, if those names sound familiar, it's because we're talking about the true story of Herman Melville, who wrote the story Moby Dick. I didn't know a lot about his early life. I didn't know anything about Manjiro's early life. The way their lives intersect and the impact they had on their countries is just astounding. So this is a novel in verse that is designed for older readers, grades 6 and up, and also a book that can be enjoyed by adults. It focuses on one man from the United States and one man from Japan. Let me read to you the description. Herman, we're talking about Herman Melville, dreamed of adventure. So did Manjiro. Both were desperate to support their families, but neither imagined the heave-ho of a whaling ship could cost them their lives. Within days of each other, two fatherless boys, and you see how both of their fathers pass away, push off to sea in search of adventure and a livelihood. One is from a young country open and free, the United States. The other is from an ancient country, strict and closed, Japan. By way of the whaling industry that brought light to the world, they both dived headfirst into each other's dangerous and exotic worlds. They never dreamed the wake of their plunge would still lap at history's feet today. It will shock readers how important this event was. This historical adventure novel in verse details the intersecting lives of Herman Melville, who would go on to write Moby Dick, and Nakahama John Manjiro, who would go on to provide English translations and advice to the Council of Nobles in Edo for the peaceful and successful opening of Japan, following Commodore Matthew Perry's 1853 arrival in Edo Bay. And where they intersect and how they intersect, it just is mind-blowing. I can't speak highly enough of this book. And here's a peek inside. It's a logbook over 300 pages, but is written in verse, and you see it has this really creative format. And so it's a pretty fast read, even though it's quite lengthy. And it's edge of your seat adventure throughout the majority of it. And in the back, you learn some more information about Herman Melville and about John Manjiro. And I think readers will be absolutely intrigued. So it's a historical novel in verse, creative, engaging format, details the life of Herman Melville, author of Moby Dick, and someone from Japan that young readers might never have heard of, but was super important to the history of that country. So the historical importance of opening up Japan to the world is highlighted. It's high adventure, and back matter provides historical information and context for young readers. We also get some insights into the author's reasons for writing this and her connection to the story, which is also as fascinating. So that's our spring 2026 list at Reycraft Books. I hope you'll check out all these books and more. Please go to our website at www.reycraftbooks.com. You'll see the multiple distributors that we have. If you're worried about getting our books, don't worry. We have multiple ways of getting them, and you can also order them directly from us. And check out our YouTube channel. We've started interviewing our authors and uploading detailed interviews that you can share with young readers, where they'll get some insights into why the authors created the books, their creative process, tips for writing, and so on. And we're really excited about starting to include those on our YouTube channel to personalize each and every book that we create. So thank you for joining me, and happy reading.